The hum of Elysium Station resonated through its curved halls, a persistent sound that Willie had long since learned to ignore. Like most things in the outer ring, it was designed to dazzle, to distract, chromed surfaces reflecting the carefully calibrated lighting that mimicked a perpetual golden hour. But Willie knew better. 5 years aboard this floating metropolis had taught him that beauty often concealed the most grotesque realities. Willie's quarters were Spartan compared to the opulence that most visitors to Elysium experienced. A single room with utilitarian furnishings, a small kitchen unit, and a view of the stars that he rarely bothered to admire anymore. The stars had lost their wonder for him long ago. Around the same time he'd lost his position as an empathic consultant for the Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. Now, he was just another anonymous face in the crowd, which suited him perfectly. Anonymity meant safety. Anonymity meant forgetting. He ran his fingers over the neural dampener at the base of his skull, a small, disc-shaped device that suppressed his empathic abilities. In the early days, he'd removed it occasionally, just to feel something. Anything beyond the muted emotions that filtered through, even with the dampener active. But the psychic cacophony of thousands of beings, from hundreds of species, had quickly reminded him why he wore it. Now, he only removed it when absolutely necessary, which wasn't often. Willie was preparing his evening meal, a synthetic protein cube that tasted vaguely of what Earth humans once called chicken, when he felt it. A sharp, psychic cry that pierced through his dampener like a needle through fabric. He froze, the protein cube forgotten as he concentrated on the sensation. It wasn't uncommon for strong emotions to break through his dampener. But this was different. This wasn't just pain or fear. It was a complex tangle of desperation, resignation, and a deep, soul-crushing sorrow. Without thinking, Willie activated his dampener's diagnostic function, scanning for the source of the distress. The readings were confusing. 2 distinct signatures, intertwined in a way he'd never seen before. One pulsed with rage and defiance, the other with a quiet, almost serene acceptance that somehow hurt even more. He shouldn't get involved. That was the promise he'd made to himself after what happened on Proxima Centauri b. No more interventions. No more trying to save everyone. But his feet were already moving, carrying him out of his quarters and into the gleaming corridors of Elysium Station. The lower he descended through the station's levels, the more the illusion of luxury faded. By the time he reached sub-level 8, the chrome had given way to utilitarian metal, the soft lighting replaced by harsh fluorescence that flickered intermittently. The hum here was different too, more mechanical, less designed to soothe. Willie followed the psychic trail like a bloodhound, ignoring the curious and sometimes hostile glances from those he passed. Most were security personnel or maintenance workers, but a few wore the distinctive red insignia of Veltranspires, the interstellar corporation that technically owned Elysium Station. Though few spoke of that ownership openly. The trail led him to a nondescript door marked Lot Processing 900-950. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the access panel. This was the moment to turn back, to return to his quarters and his synthetic protein cube, and his carefully constructed anonymity. But the psychic cry came again, weaker now, but somehow more desperate, and Willie's hand pressed against the panel before he could reconsider. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a long corridor lined with transparent containment units. Each unit was numbered and contained various items, artifacts, technology, biological specimens. Willie moved quickly, following the psychic signal, until he reached Unit 923. What he saw made his blood run cold. 2 humanoid figures huddled in the far corner of the unit. One had skin the color of Earth's oceans, a deep, vibrant blue that seemed to pulse with its own internal light. Her eyes, when they flicked up to meet Willie's, were solid black. No whites or irises, just endless darkness. A series of markings, whether tattoos or natural features. Willie couldn't tell, ran from her temples down her neck, disappearing beneath a simple gray shift that did little to disguise her lean, muscular frame. The second figure was smaller, more delicate. Her skin was a soft lavender, almost translucent, with veins of a darker purple visible beneath. Unlike her companion, she didn't look up when Willie approached. She remained curled into herself, face hidden, long silver hair cascading over her shoulders and pooling on the floor around her. A holographic display hovered next to the containment unit, cycling through information. Lot 923, pair specimen, Vailashi, warrior caste, defective, and Malurian songweaver, muted. Final auction, completed. Status, no bids received. Scheduled for processing, 22 hour station time. Processing. Willie knew what that meant. No bids meant no value. No value meant disposal. And on Elysium Station, disposal was permanent. The display showed the current time, 21:34. Less than 30 minutes remained. Willie's hand moved to his neural dampener, hesitating only briefly before disengaging it completely. The psychic wave hit him like a physical blow, driving him to his knees. Rage from the blue-skinned woman, Vailashi, according to the display. A deep, echoing emptiness from the lavender-skinned Malurian. And beneath it all, a desperate plea that neither of them had consciously sent. Help us. Reactivating his dampener at the lowest setting. Willie approached the containment unit's control panel. 5 years ago, as an empathic consultant, he would have had the clearance to open any containment unit on the station. Now, he was just another civilian. But Willie had learned other skills during his time on Elysium, skills that weren't listed in any official record. His fingers danced over the control panel, bypassing security protocols and rerouting authorization codes. It took longer than he would have liked, each second ticking away precious time. But finally, the containment field shimmered and disappeared. The Vailashi woman was on her feet instantly, her posture defensive, ready to attack or flee. The Malurian remained curled on the floor, though Willie could sense her awareness of the changed situation. "I'm not going to hurt you," Willie said, keeping his voice low and calm while projecting the same sentiment psychically. "But we don't have much time. If you want to live, you need to come with me now." The Vailashi's eyes narrowed, suspicion radiating from her like heat from a star. "Why?" The word was guttural, as if her vocal cords weren't designed for human speech. "Because no one deserves to be treated like property," Willie replied simply. "My name is Willie. I have a safe place, but we need to move now." For a moment, he thought she would refuse. Then, in a fluid motion that spoke of years of combat training, she bent and gathered the Malurian in her arms. The smaller woman didn't resist, instead, molding herself against the Vailashi's body with practiced ease. "I am Ren," the Vailashi said. "She is Anya. If you betray us, I will tear your mind apart before I kill you." It wasn't an idle threat. Willie could feel the psychic power behind her words. Raw and untrained but immensely powerful. He nodded once in acknowledgement and led them out of the containment area. The journey back to his quarters was tense. Willie chose service corridors and maintenance shafts where possible, avoiding the main thoroughfares with their security cameras and patrols. Twice they had to hide as Veltranspire's security personnel passed. And once Willie had to use his empathic abilities to redirect the attention of a curious maintenance worker. By the time they reached Willie's quarters, his head was pounding from the strain of keeping his abilities active, while simultaneously shielding the psychic signatures of his companions. As the door slid shut behind them, he slumped against the wall, exhausted. "Secure room protocol Alpha," he croaked, and the room's systems hummed in response. The windows darkened, the ambient noise generators activated, and a subtle shimmer appeared briefly along the walls as the psychic dampening field engaged. What is this place? Wren asked, still holding Anya close. My home, Willie replied. And now your sanctuary, for as long as you need it. Wren's suspicion hadn't diminished, but necessity overcame caution. She moved to the small sleeping alcove and gently laid Anya down. The Malurian's eyes opened briefly, iridescent silver, like liquid mercury, before closing again. Her breathing was shallow but steady. She needs nourishment, Wren said, turning back to Willie. And proper light, Malurians photosynthesize. Willie nodded, moving to his environmental controls. What spectrum? Wren seemed surprised by the question, or perhaps by his immediate acceptance of the need. Ultraviolet primarily, with infrared pulses every 10 minutes. Willie adjusted the lighting accordingly, and a soft purple glow filled the sleeping alcove. He then moved to his food synthesizer, grateful that he'd splurged on the multi-species model despite its cost. I can program it for Velashi nutritional requirements, he offered. And Malurian, when she's ready. Wren watched him warily as he worked, her posture tense, ready to attack at the slightest provocation. Willie could feel her scrutinizing his every move, not just physically, but psychically as well. Tendrils of her consciousness brushing against his mental shields like fingers testing a lock. You're an empath, she finally said. But you wear a dampener. Why? Willie didn't look up from the synthesizer. Same reason you're building walls around your mind, even as you probe mine. Some things are too painful to leave exposed. The first meal the synthesizer produced was a gelatinous blue substance that Willie would have found unappetizing. But Wren consumed it quickly, her eyes never leaving him. When she finished, she moved back to check on Anya, adjusting the smaller woman's position so that more of her skin was exposed to the ultraviolet light. How long has she been like this? Willie asked. Since they captured us, Wren replied, her voice tight. 3 station cycles, maybe 4. It's hard to track time in the containment units. She's Malurian, a songweaver, according to the lot description. But it said she was muted. What does that mean? Wren's hand moved to Anya's silver hair, stroking it with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with her warrior's demeanor. Malurians communicate through psychic song. It's part of their essence. The Veltranspires put a neural inhibitor in her, cut her off from her songs. For a Malurian, it's like cutting out her soul, Willie finished, understanding all too well. He'd seen similar technologies used on other psychic species, always with devastating effects. Wren nodded, her fingers continuing their gentle stroking motion. I've been holding her mind together with mine. It's not the same as her songs, but it gives her something to anchor to. That explained the intertwined psychic signatures Willie had detected. And you? The display labeled you as defective. What did they do to you? A flash of fury radiated from Wren, so intense that Willie winced despite his dampener. They tried to collar me. All Velashi warriors wear vine metal collars, living metal that connects us to our battle minds. When they put their collar on me, I tore it off, took some of my skin with it. She touched her neck, where Willie now noticed a jagged scar circling halfway around. They couldn't control me after that. Damaged goods. Willie moved closer, cautiously seating himself on the floor near the sleeping alcove. I can help her, if you'll let me. I have medical training, and I might be able to remove the inhibitor. Wren's eyes bored into him. Why would you risk yourself for us? You don't know us. It was a fair question, one Willie had been asking himself since he'd first felt their psychic cry. Because 5 years ago, I failed someone who needed me. I've been hiding ever since, pretending I couldn't hear the suffering around me. But I heard you two, clear as a bell, right through my dampener. Maybe that means something. Or maybe you're collecting strays to sell yourself, Wren countered, though Willie could sense her uncertainty. If that were true, I wouldn't have brought you to my personal quarters or told you about my empathic abilities, Willie pointed out, But your caution is understandable. I'll earn your trust, or I won't. Either way, you're safe here for now." Ren seemed to consider this, then gave a short nod. "You can examine her, but I will be watching. And if you hurt her, you'll tear my mind apart before you kill me." "I remember." Willie offered a small smile, which Ren did not return. The neural inhibitor was embedded at the base of Anya's skull, similar to Willie's dampener but cruder, designed for permanent installation rather than user control. Removing it would require specialized tools and a steady hand. Fortunately, Willie had both. "This will take time," he told Ren, "and it will be uncomfortable for her when it's removed. The psychic feedback could be intense." "I'll contain it," Ren said with absolute certainty. "Just get that thing out of her." Willie worked methodically, his medical scanner guiding his movements as he carefully disconnected the inhibitor from Anya's neural pathways. Ren remained beside him, one hand on Anya's shoulder, the other hovering near Willie's throat, a not-so-subtle reminder of her earlier threat. The procedure took nearly 2 hours, during which Anya occasionally whimpered or twitched, but never fully awoke. Finally, with a soft click, the inhibitor detached, and Willie carefully extracted it from Anya's flesh. "It's done," he said, setting the device aside. "She'll need time to heal, but her abilities should return gradually." Ren's hand moved from Willie's throat to Anya's face, gently stroking her cheek. "Thank you," she said, the words clearly unfamiliar on her tongue. Willie nodded, gathering his tools. "She should rest. You too. The sleeping alcove can accommodate both of you. I'll take the floor." Ren's eyes narrowed. "You're not going to restrain us?" "Would it make a difference if I tried?" Willie asked with a raised eyebrow. A ghost of a smile touched Ren's lips. "No. Then no. I'm not going to restrain you. This isn't a prison. It's a sanctuary, for as long as you need it." The next few days fell into an uneasy routine. Willie continued his normal activities, reporting to his mundane job in station maintenance, gathering information about station security, and collecting supplies they might need. Ren and Anya remained in his quarters, gradually recovering their strength. Anya's progress was slow, but steady. By the 3rd day, she was sitting up, her mercurial eyes tracking movement, though she still hadn't spoken, either verbally or psychically. Ren remained constantly at her side, their physical contact seemingly necessary for both of them. Willie learned more about them in bits and pieces. Ren and Anya had been captured separately, but placed together in containment, due to their complementary psychic abilities. The Vel transpires, hoping that Ren's warrior mind would stabilize Anya enough to make her marketable. What they hadn't anticipated was the bond that would form between the two women, a connection that transcended their different species and backgrounds. "We're not lovers," Ren clarified, when Willie awkwardly asked about their relationship. "Not in the way you might understand it. I don't have the right word in your language. The closest might be soul-tethered." "Like family?" Willie suggested. Ren considered this. More than family. Families can be separated and still function. If Anya and I were separated now, after what we've shared, it would destroy us both. It was on the 5th day that everything changed. Willie returned from his shift to find Anya standing by the window, the first time he'd seen her out of the sleeping alcove. She was still thin, almost fragile-looking, but there was a new strength in her posture. Ren stood beside her, their hands linked. As Willie entered, Anya turned, and for the first time, he felt her psychic presence, not as the echoing emptiness he'd sensed before, but as a delicate melody that brushed against his consciousness, like a whisper. "She sang today," Ren said, uncharacteristic emotion making her voice rough. "Just for a moment. But she sang." Willie smiled, genuine happiness warming him. "That's wonderful, Anya." The Malurian didn't respond verbally, but her psychic melody shifted. incorporating a new note that somehow conveyed gratitude. Willie recognized it for the profound gift it was. That night, as they shared a meal, Ren and Willie eating synthesized protein appropriate for their species, Anya absorbing nutrients from a special light bath Willie had rigged, the conversation turned to the future. "We can't stay here indefinitely," Willie admitted. "I've been monitoring station chatter. The Veltranspires have noticed the missing inventory. They're conducting discrete searches, level by level." "They won't find us through conventional means," Ren said confidently. "Not with your psychic dampening field." "Maybe not," Willie agreed. "But resources are limited. The food synthesizer is already struggling to meet Velashi nutritional requirements, and Anya needs more specialized care than I can provide long-term." "You want us to leave," Ren stated, a hint of her old suspicion returning. "I want all of us to leave," Willie corrected. "There's a smuggler, Kale, who occasionally transports people who need to disappear. He owes me a favor. I've arranged passage for 3 on his next run." Ren's surprise was evident both in her expression and in the psychic spike that Willie felt, even through his dampener. "You're coming with us?" "If you'll have me," Willie said. "There's nothing for me here except memories I'd rather forget. And—" He hesitated, unsure how to express the connection he'd begun to feel toward these two strange women who had disrupted his carefully isolated existence. "And you've become tethered," Ren finished for him, understanding dawning in her black eyes. "Not as Anya and I are, but in your human way." Willie nodded, somewhat embarrassed by the accuracy of her assessment. "Is that okay?" Before Ren could respond, Anya's hand reached across the table, slim lavender fingers wrapping around Willie's wrist. Her touch was cool, almost ethereal, and accompanied by a psychic melody that conveyed more than words ever could. Acceptance, gratitude, and a tentative offer of friendship. "I think that's a yes," Ren said, the ghost of a smile returning. The plan was simple. Wait 3 more days until Kale's ship docked. Then use Willie's maintenance access to reach the cargo bay undetected. In the meantime, they would gather supplies and prepare for the journey to wherever Kale could safely deliver them. But plans rarely survive contact with reality, especially on a station like Elysium. Willie was midway through his shift the next day when he felt it. A probing psychic scan sweeping through the maintenance level where he worked. It wasn't directed at him specifically, but it was thorough, examining every mind it encountered for specific psychic signatures. They were looking for Ren and Anya. Willie reinforced his mental shields, grateful for years of practice hiding his true nature. The scan passed over him without pausing, but the message was clear. The Veltranspires were escalating their search, using psychic means now that physical searches had failed. He needed to warn Ren and Anya, but using his communicator might attract attention. Instead, he reached out psychically, sending a carefully directed thought toward his quarters, hoping Ren would be receptive enough to catch it. Danger. Shields up. Coming soon. Whether she received it or not, Willie couldn't tell. He continued his work, counting the minutes until his shift ended, trying to appear normal despite the fear churning in his gut. When he was finally released, he took a circuitous route back to his quarters, watching carefully for surveillance or pursuit. The door to his quarters slid open at his approach, and Willie stepped inside, immediately sensing that something was wrong. The room was dark, the environmental controls reset to standard settings. No ultraviolet light bathed the sleeping alcove. No psychic dampening field hummed along the walls. "Ren? Anya?" Willie called softly, reaching for the light controls. Before his fingers could make contact, a powerful force slammed into him, driving him against the wall. Not physical, psychic. A mental battering ram that left him gasping for breath as lights exploded behind his eyes. "Did you think we wouldn't find them?" a voice asked from the darkness. "Did you think we wouldn't find you, empath?" The lights activated, revealing a tall, thin figure standing in the center of the room. Humanoid, but with the distinctive chrome-plated skull implants that marked high-ranking Veltranspire's operatives. A psychic enforcer. Willie struggled against the psychic hold, his own abilities flaring in defense. "Where are they? What have you done with them?" The enforcer smiled, the expression never reaching his cold eyes. "Your pets? They're being prepared for special processing. High-value research subjects now. Thanks to you. The bond they've formed is fascinating. Our scientists are eager to study it, even if it means dissecting their brains to do so." Rage flooded Willie, sharper and hotter than anything he'd felt in years. His dampener, still set to minimal interference, couldn't contain the surge of psychic energy that radiated from him. The enforcer's smile faltered as Willie's mind pushed back against his. Two psychic forces colliding like tidal waves. "You underestimated me," Willie growled, feeling his control slipping. "Just like you underestimated them." The enforcer's eyes widened as Willie's psychic energy continued to build, pushing against his mental barriers. "Impossible. Your file said you were a mid-level empath at best." "My file," Willie said through gritted teeth, "is 5 years out of date." With a final surge of effort, Willie shattered the psychic hold, sending the enforcer staggering backward. But instead of pressing his advantage, Willie dove for the environmental controls, activating the station's emergency protocols. "Station security alert," he gasped into the communication panel. "Unauthorized Veltranspire's operation in residential section 47. Multiple hostages. Armed response requested." It was a desperate gamble. Station security and Veltranspires maintained an uneasy alliance, each recognizing the other's authority within specific parameters. By declaring an unauthorized operation, Willie was hoping to create enough confusion to buy time. The enforcer recovered quickly, a new wave of psychic force slamming into Willie. "Clever, but futile. Security won't arrive for at least 10 minutes. You'll be dead in 2. "He doesn't need to survive for 10 minutes, came a familiar voice from the doorway. "He just needed to distract you for 10 seconds. Ren stood in the open doorway, her blue skin gleaming with what looked like sweat, but which Willie recognized as the bioluminescent response Velashi experienced under extreme stress. Behind her, partially hidden, was Anya. Her silver hair now shot through with strands of vibrant purple that pulsed with inner light. The enforcer turned, his focus split between Willie and the new arrivals. That moment of divided attention was all Ren needed. With a cry that was as much psychic as physical, she launched herself at the enforcer, her hands outstretched not to strike, but to grasp his chrome-plated skull. Willie felt the psychic battle immediately. Ren's raw, untrained power against the enforcer's disciplined, augmented abilities. Under normal circumstances, the enforcer would have overpowered her easily. But these weren't normal circumstances. As Ren grappled with the enforcer, Anya stepped fully into the room. Her mercury eyes were wide, fixed on the struggle before her, and then she opened her mouth and sang. It wasn't a sound Willie heard with his ears. It was a psychic melody that resonated through his entire being. A song so beautiful and terrible that tears sprang to his eyes. The song wrapped around Ren, reinforcing her psychic attack with harmonies that seemed to cut through the enforcer's defenses, like lasers through fog. The enforcer screamed, his psychic shields collapsing under the combined assault. He fell to his knees, chrome implants sparking as neural pathways overloaded. Willie didn't wait to see if he would recover. He grabbed his emergency pack, prepared days ago for just such a contingency, and motioned for Ren and Anya to follow him. "How did you escape?" he asked, as they raced through the corridors, heading for the maintenance shafts that would lead them to the cargo bays. "They separated us," Ren explained between breaths. "Put us in isolation chambers, but they didn't realize how strong your bond had become." Willie finished, understanding. "You could still reach each other." Ren nodded. Anya sang. Not much, but enough. It gave me the strength to break free. After that, finding her was easy. Finding you was harder. But we heard your call, Anya said, speaking aloud for the first time. Her voice was soft, melodic, with an accent Willie couldn't place. Like a beacon in darkness. There was no time for Willie to process the wonder of hearing Anya's voice. They had reached the maintenance shaft that would take them down to the cargo levels. Willie quickly overrode the access panel, and the three of them began their descent, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. The cargo bay was vast, dimly lit, and filled with containers of various sizes. Cale's ship wasn't due for another 2 days, but Willie had a backup plan, a small maintenance vessel used for external repairs to the station. It wouldn't get them far, but it might get them far enough to rendezvous with Cale at his next stop. They were halfway across the cargo bay when the lights suddenly brightened, and a voice boomed over the station's announcement system. Attention all personnel! This is a station-wide lockdown. 3 fugitives have been detected in Cargo Bay 12. All security personnel report immediately. Repeat, this is a station-wide lockdown. So much for the element of surprise, Willie muttered, increasing his pace. Ren and Anya matched his stride, their faces set with determination. The maintenance vessel was where Willie remembered. A small, utilitarian craft, designed for 2 operators at most. It would be cramped with 3, but that was the least of their concerns. I can pilot it, Ren said as they approached. Velashi warriors are trained on all manner of spacecraft. Willie nodded, already working on the vessel's security lock. Good, because I barely passed basic flight training. The sound of doors opening echoed through the cargo bay, followed by the clatter of armored boots on metal flooring. Security had arrived, and in force. Hurry, Anya urged, her eyes darting toward the approaching sounds. Willie's fingers flew over the access panel, bypassing security protocols and initiating the vessel's startup sequence. The craft hummed to life, just as the first security officers rounded the corner of a large container. Weapons raised. Inside! Now! Willie shouted, practically shoving Ren and Anya through the vessel's hatch before diving in after them. Ren was already at the controls, her fingers dancing across the unfamiliar interface with surprising confidence. The vessel lurched as its magnetic clamps released, then began to rise unsteadily. Security officers opened fire, but the maintenance vessel's hull, designed to withstand micrometeoroid impacts, easily deflected their standard-issue weapons. Cargo bay doors are sealed, Ren reported, her voice tense. We need another way out. Willie moved to the co-pilot seat, scanning the vessel's systems. There's an emergency maintenance hatch at Section 47C. It's meant for quick access to the station's exterior in case of critical system failures. Will it open during lockdown? Anya asked, bracing herself against the vessel's erratic movements. It will if we trigger a critical system failure, Willie replied, a plan forming. He accessed the vessel's external tools, welders, cutters, and magnetic grapplers designed for hull repairs. Ren, get us to Section 47C. I'm going to convince the station that it has a serious problem. As Ren navigated the unwieldy craft through the cargo bay, Willie directed the external welding tool toward one of the station's primary power conduits. The resulting short circuit was spectacular, a cascade of sparks and emergency lights that triggered exactly the response Willie had hoped for. All around them, emergency bulkheads began to close as the station isolated the affected section. Now, Willie urged. The maintenance hatch will open automatically to allow repair crews access. Sure enough, a large section of the cargo bay wall slid aside, revealing the star-speckled blackness of space beyond. Ren didn't hesitate, gunning the vessel's engines and sending them hurtling through the opening moments before it closed behind them. The sudden transition from the station's artificial gravity to open space sent the small vessel tumbling, its stabilizers struggling to compensate. Willie's stomach lurched as stars spun crazily outside the viewport, but Ren's hands remained steady on the controls, gradually bringing their wild spin under control. "Setting course for the Outer Rim trading post," she announced once they had stabilized. "It's 3 days at this vessel's top speed. Kale can meet us there." Willie nodded, relief washing over him as Elysium Station receded in their rear viewport. They had made it. Against all odds, they had escaped. The 3 days aboard the maintenance vessel were cramped and uncomfortable, but none of them complained. They took turns sleeping in the vessel's single bunk, rationed their limited food supplies, and spoke little. The psychic connection between them, however, grew stronger with each passing hour, a silent communion that required no words. On the second day, as Willie and Ren shared a meal of emergency rations while Anya slept, Ren finally asked the question that had clearly been on her mind. "What happened 5 years ago? The failure you mentioned?" Willie was silent for a long moment, staring at the unappetizing protein paste in his hand. "I was an empathic consultant for the Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. My job was to read the emotions of delegates during negotiations, identify deception, facilitate understanding between species with radically different communication methods. I was good at it." He sighed, setting aside the half-eaten ration. "Too good. Maybe. They sent me to Proxima Centauri B for a first contact situation. A new species had been discovered, apparently pre-spaceflight but with advanced psychic abilities. My role was to establish initial communication, ensure their intentions were peaceful." "What went wrong?" Ren asked quietly. "Everything," Willie replied, his voice hollow. "The species, they called themselves the SETI, had a hive mind structure. Individual SETI had limited sapience. Their true consciousness existed as a collective. But our preliminary scans had missed that. When I opened my mind to them..." He trailed off, the memory still painful despite the years. "They overwhelmed you," Anya said from the bunk, her mercurial eyes now open and fixed on Willie. "Tried to absorb you into their collective." Willie nodded, unsurprised that she understood. "I panicked, lashed out psychically. The backlash. It shattered their hive mind. Hundreds of SETI, suddenly forced into individual consciousness without the capacity to handle it. They went mad, some died, others became violent. The contact mission was abandoned, the planet quarantined." "You couldn't have known," Ren said. Her usual harshness softened. "I should have," Willie insisted. "It's what I was trained for. But I was arrogant, thought I could handle anything. After that, I resigned from the Corps, had this dampener installed, and came to Elysium to disappear." "And now?" Anya asked, sitting up. "What happens after we reach the trading post?" It was a question Willie had been asking himself since they'd fled the station. "I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't thought beyond escape in years." "We have," Ren said, exchanging a glance with Anya. "Before we were captured, we were seeking a planet called Verdant. It's an artificial world in the Alcyone system, created as a sanctuary for displaced species. We've heard there's a colony of Malurians there, and possibly some Velashi as well." "You could come with us," Anya offered, her melodic voice gentle. "If you wanted to." The offer hung in the air between them, fragile and precious. Willie thought of his years of self-imposed isolation, of the emptiness that had become his existence. Then he thought of these past few days. The danger, yes, but also the connection, the sense of purpose he'd found in protecting Ren and Anya. "I'd like that," he said finally, "if you'll have me." The trading post was a ramshackle collection of habitats and docking structures orbiting a lifeless moon. Not the sort of place that asked questions about where you came from or why you were flying a stolen maintenance vessel. Kale was waiting for them, just as Willie had hoped. The smuggler was a short, stocky human, with skin the color of burnished copper and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. He took one look at the trio emerging from the maintenance vessel and shook his head. "You sure know how to complicate a simple extraction." "Willie," he said, but there was no real reproach in his tone. "Come on, my ship's this way. And hurry. Station chatter says the Veltranspires have put a bounty on your heads." Kale's ship was a vast improvement over the maintenance vessel, a mid-sized freight hauler with ample crew quarters and a hydroponics bay that provided fresh food. For Anya, there was a dedicated light room where she could absorb the specific wavelengths her Malurian physiology required. For Ren, there was a training area where she could maintain her warrior's physique and skills. For Willie, there was the gradual realization that he no longer felt the need to wear his dampener at maximum setting. The psychic presence of Ren and Anya had become comfortable, familiar, a constant background hum that was more soothing than intrusive. They were 3 days into their journey to Verdun when Willie, unable to sleep, found Anya in the ship's observation deck, staring out at the stars. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light, the purple strands pulsing gently. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, joining her at the viewport. Anya shook her head. "Malurians don't sleep as humans do. We enter a meditative state where our minds connect with the collective song of our species. But I've been disconnected so long. I've almost forgotten how—" "I'm sorry," Willie said, knowing the words were inadequate. "Don't be," Anya replied. "Without the inhibitor, I'm relearning, slowly, and—" She hesitated, her mercury eyes turning to Willie. "Your mind helps. It's different from a Malurian's, but it resonates at frequencies I can follow, like a guide back to the song." Willie felt a warmth spread through him at her words. "I'm glad, though I don't know how I'm doing it." "You don't need to know," came Ren's voice from behind them. The Velashi warrior joined them at the viewport, her black eyes reflecting the starlight. "Some things just are, like our bond." "Is that what we have?" Willie asked. "A bond?" "We're becoming tethered," Ren confirmed. "Not as Anya and I were initially, born of desperation and survival. This is different, chosen, deliberate." "I've never had a family," Willie admitted. "Not a real one. The Corps became my family for a while, but that ended badly." "Family is the wrong word," Anya said, her melodic voice soft but firm. "In my language, we would call this Veliath, 3 notes that form a perfect chord. 3 who are stronger together than apart," Ren translated. "It's similar in Velashi thought. We call it Trinka, 3 points creating a stable foundation." Willie smiled, looking between them. "Humans just call it love, I think. Different kinds for different relationships, but the same core emotion." "Love," Anya tested the word. "It sounds incomplete, but beautiful in its simplicity." "Like humans themselves," Ren added, but there was no mockery in her tone, only affection. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars streak by as Kale's ship carried them toward their new home. Willie felt a peace he hadn't known in years, perhaps ever. The guilt and shame that had driven him into isolation hadn't disappeared entirely, but they had receded, making room for something new: hope, connection, purpose. Verdun lived up to its name, from orbit. It appeared as a perfect azure sphere, its artificial atmosphere carefully calibrated to support a wide variety of life forms. As Kale's ship descended toward the designated landing area, Willie, Ren, and Anya crowded around the viewport, eager for their first glimpse of their new home. The landscape that greeted them was breathtaking. Rolling hills covered in vegetation that ranged from familiar Earth-like trees and grasses to exotic flora that seemed to defy the laws of biology. Most striking were the bioluminescent forests that dotted the landscape, glowing with soft blues, purples, and greens even in the planet's daylight. "It's beautiful," Anya whispered, her mercury eyes wide with wonder. "And defensible," Ren added pragmatically, though Willie could sense her appreciation of the beauty as well. Kale landed the ship in a clearing near one of the smaller settlements, a collection of structures that blended seamlessly with the natural environment. Some were built into living trees. Others seemed to grow from the ground itself, their bioengineered materials pulsing with life. "This is as far as I go," Kale told them as they prepared to disembark. "I've registered you as environmental refugees. No mention of the Veltran spires. You should be safe here, but keep your guard up. Those corporate types have long memories." Willie clasped the smuggler's hand. "Thank you, Kale, for everything." Kale shrugged, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "Just don't make me rescue you again. I'm getting too old for dramatic escapes." As they stepped out onto the soil of Verdant for the first time, Willie felt a psychic presence wash over him, not invasive or threatening, but welcoming. A gentle scan that recognized him as sentient and acknowledged his right to be there. "Did you feel that?" he asked his companions. Anya nodded, her face radiant. "The planet is alive, not like Meluria, which sings with millions of individual voices, but as a single, vast consciousness. It's assessing us," Ren added, her warrior's instincts alert but not alarmed. "Deciding if we belong." A small delegation approached from the settlement, a mixed group of species including, to Anya's visible delight, 2 Melurians. Their silver hair was streaked with blue rather than purple, but the resemblance was unmistakable. There were no Velashi among them, but one tall insectoid being had markings similar to Ren's, suggesting some shared cultural or evolutionary history. The leader of the delegation, a humanoid with skin that shifted colors like an earth chameleon, stepped forward. "Welcome to Verdant. I am Thal, Community Coordinator. You are registered as environmental refugees?" Willie stepped forward, instinctively taking a protective position slightly ahead of Ren and Anya. "Yes, our previous home became uninhabitable. We seek sanctuary." Thal's skin rippled through shades of green and blue, an emotional response that Willie interpreted as sympathy mixed with caution. "Sanctuary is freely given on Verdant, to all who respect our ways. You are empathic," they added, addressing Willie directly. "As are your companions, though in different ways." "Is that a problem?" Ren asked, tension evident in her stance. "Quite the opposite," Thal replied, their skin settling into a pleasant turquoise. "Psychic abilities are honored here. Many of our residents share similar gifts. You will find community, if you wish it." The 2 Melurians had moved closer, their attention fixed on Anya. One of them made a gesture, hands cupped as if holding water, then offered outward. Anya responded with a similar gesture, adding a subtle variation that Willie couldn't interpret. "They welcome her as kin," Ren explained quietly to Willie, offering to share their songs, "and she has accepted, but told them she is bonded to us." Willie felt a surge of emotion, relief that Anya would find her people, mixed with a selfish fear that she might leave them to rejoin Melurian society. Anya must have sensed his concern, for she turned to him, her mercurial eyes soft with understanding. "I will not leave you," she said simply. "Either of you. We are Veliath now." "Trinka," Ren agreed, her hand finding Willie's and squeezing gently. "Love," Willie added, completing their private trinity of terms. Thal had been observing this exchange with interest, their skin shifting to a curious purple. "You 3 are bonded? A human, a Velashi, and a Melurian? That is unusual." "We've found that unusual can be beautiful," Willie replied, feeling Ren's strength and Anya's serenity flowing into him through their psychic connection. Thal's skin flushed a bright, happy yellow. "Indeed. Verdant was founded on such a principle. Come, let us show you to your new home. We have a dwelling that might suit your unique requirements." The dwelling was perfect, a living structure nestled between the regular forest and the bioluminescent groves. It had 3 distinct areas that catered to their individual needs. A normal Earth-standard habitat for Willy, a high-gravity, UV-rich chamber for Ren, and a crystalline room filled with resonant surfaces for Anya's songs. But most importantly, it had a central space where all three environments overlapped, allowing them to be together without discomfort. In the days that followed, they gradually integrated into the verdant community. Anya spent time with the Malurian enclave, relearning the songs of her people and teaching them new melodies she had created during her captivity. Ren found purpose in the settlement's defense force, her warrior skills valued and respected rather than feared. And Willy, to his surprise, found himself drawn to the community's mediation council, a group of empaths from various species who helped resolve disputes and facilitate understanding between Verdant's diverse residents. His experience with the diplomatic corps, once a source of shame, became an asset. Slowly, he began to forgive himself for past failures. 3 months after their arrival, on a night when Verdant's 3 moons hung full in the sky, Willy found himself sitting with Ren and Anya on the living roof of their dwelling. Above them, stars sparkled in patterns, both familiar and strange. Below, the bioluminescent forest pulsed with gentle light, its rhythm matching the beating of their hearts. "Are you happy here?" Willy asked, the question directed at both of his companions. "Happy is a human concept," Ren replied, but her tone was teasing rather than critical. "Velashi seek purpose and connection. I have found both." "Malurians seek harmony," Anya added, her silver-purple hair shimmering in the moonlight. "Both within ourselves and with others. Here, I have rediscovered my songs and found new melodies to weave." "And you, Willy?" Ren asked, turning her black eyes toward him. "Have you found what humans seek?" Willy considered the question, looking between the two extraordinary beings who had become the center of his existence. He thought of the life he'd left behind, the isolation, the guilt, the emptiness. And he thought of what he'd found: purpose, connection, and a love so unique that human language struggled to define it. "Humans seek many things," he said finally. "Safety, meaning, belonging. But most of all, I think we seek home." He reached out, taking Ren's blue hand in one of his and Anya's lavender hand in the other. "I've found mine." As if in response to his words, Anya began to sing, not just with her voice, but with her mind, a psychic melody that enveloped them all. Ren joined in, her warrior's discipline transforming into rhythmic strength that supported Anya's delicate harmonies. And Willy, removing his dampener completely for the first time in years, added his own empathic resonance to their shared song. 3 different beings from 3 different worlds, creating something entirely new together. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just connected, but completed. In the vastness of the universe, on a small artificial planet, circling an unremarkable star, 3 souls who had once been merchandise, too soft, too wild, too broken to be of value, had found in each other a beauty beyond price. And in that beauty, they had found home.